Do you read me over?
Be advised, you are coming in weak and unreadable.
Say again, Com Tower. This is Pacho. Do you read me over?
Pacho, this is Com Tower. I read you Lima Charlie.
Com Tower, Com Tower. Request permission to launch and commence the field op. Over.
Stand by. Pacho, permission granted. I say again, permission granted.
Roger that. Launching podcast in 3, 2. You are now entering the field op with your host, Pacho Correa, Chief Warrant Officer 3, United States Marine Corps retired. Get some. Hurrah! Get some. Hurrah! What's going on, everybody? Friday night's Eve, baby Friday. Well, goddamn, thank God it's almost the weekend. Hey, we got a really, really good show for today, and we're gonna talk about some really cool things in the show today. But let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. Hey, when was the last time that you took a hard look at where you're at financially? Maybe you're transitioning out of the service. Maybe you're looking for your next venture. Maybe you're looking to plan and strategize as now that you've been helped by the military for so many years. Where is it that you stand financially, as well as how in transition out of the service? What things can I implement to make sure my family is protected, and how can I and with who can I have that conversation? Well, you're looking at that guy right here. As a financial professional, not only can I help you transition out of the military with my prior experience, but also guide you in different aspects as to, hey, here's how you can protect your family. God forbid something were to happen, because you're no longer going to be on SGA life, single group life insurance, and why is other alternatives are better than taking on veterans group life insurance, as well as, what do I need to do to invest properly? How can I transfer my thrift savings plan? Among many different things. What I do is I basically show you and help you strategize those things, implement those and execute, so that you or your family aren't suffering or kind of feeling your way around based on my previous experience. So I got you. I got your back, as one of my friends says all the time. So give me a call. The conversation is free. If I'm a good fit and I can help, fantastic. If not, that's okay as well. Because at the end of the day, you just want to make sure that you're properly protected. Okay. So the other thing is that you want to be able to just make sure that you are putting in for your VA's claims and benefits. I have helped many veterans already increase their claims and benefits, going from 20% to 60, 70%, 80 or 90. Some I've helped them get over 100%. Different, I can't promise you're going to get 100% right off the bat. If you do, great. If you don't, that's okay, because we can always keep reapplying and making sure that we kind of inch it a little bit every step of the way. So unlike, what's the difference between me and everybody and all the other people is that I don't make any guarantees or promises, because a lot of companies, they're going to basically do the same thing that I'm going to show you how to do it, so that God forbid you can't get a hold of me. Well, now you have the knowledge on how to basically put in a claim in the system yourself. So a lot of these companies or claim sharks, they guarantee you 100%, and they just they basically just keep reapplying, and then what it'll cost you? Well, it's going to cost you a percentage of whatever it is that you get compensated, and you're going to also basically end up paying a couple of $1,000s as a donation to them. So again, I'm just showing you how to fish and helping you out. And on the other side, I show you, hey, look, now you're going to get this money from that you earn. Let's do something practical with it instead of just spending it on things, or you trying to figure out how to put your finances together. So that's the huge difference and the benefit of working with me. Okay. Because look, at the end of the day, in this show, we support the right to bear arms. We support freedom of speech. We may agree to disagree, and that's okay. It happens. But what I can promise you is that I'm giving you experience based on me, things in the past, and I give you the straight scoop, kind of like passing the word at the end, right before we all, we all call it dismiss information, and you can go home and enjoy your day or your weekend. So just kind of think of it. That's what the purpose of the field up is all about. So hit me up. We'll the conversation is free, and we can go from there. So we got so I think that's all the pleasantries right off the bat, folks. Let's go ahead and kick off the show a little bit. I just want to get my notes together. So I've been kind of a little bit struggling with this. I guess one day, you look in the mirror and you realize, like, hey, who's this dude or is this person looking at me? I was, now that I'm getting my hair cut, not every week like I used to when I was in the Marine Corps. I mean, shit, haircuts are super expensive. I remember when haircuts were like $2, 225, something like that on base, and you could bring a coupon, and it was much cheaper. I mean, I guess that's how old I am. But a few months ago, I was back in Camp Pendleton. Last year, I was back in Camp Pendleton, and I went to get a haircut, and it was just insane. I'm like, man, how are young Marines paying for these haircuts? Which costs a freaking arm and a leg. I mean, shit, a cheap haircut nowadays is $35. Anyways, the point is that I'm only getting the haircut once a month. But I was sitting on the barber chair. I'm like, man, who is this cat staring back at me? And I was like, man, that's me. So I want to talk about in today's episode something that many veterans, athletes, hard charging individuals, will eventually face. I mean, shit, even movie stars. I'm not saying I'm a movie star, but I like to think so. We face this transition from being the young gun to becoming that somewhat seasoned warrior, right? It's not about giving up or about lowering our standards. It's just kind of about adapting, so to speak. So, I want to talk a little bit about fitness, longevity, identity, injuries, health, and just the reality of how, as we're getting older or more mature, the mission kind of changes. So it's no longer to impress people, how much I can bench, being part of the 300 club. That was something big that went, all my deployments to Iraq, everybody's like, oh, I'm part of the 300 club or the 300-pound club. Basically, you could press 300 pounds, which is pretty fucking impressive. So it's not about, it's basically about being healthy, not, giving ourselves dangerous, being, basically injuring ourselves. I mean, I'm still dangerous when it's necessary. If I mean, yeah, you can still count on me at a good bar fight, if you know what I mean. But basically at the end of the day, look, folks, that warrior doesn't really disappear. It's more is how that warrior evolves and adapts, right? It's like as Clint Eastwood once said in Heartbreak Ridge, we adapt, we overcome. That's what Marines do. I mean, the line wasn't in particular like that, but we adapt and overcome, right? So just kind of looking at, who is this man in the mirror? It's just when I looked at myself, I realized I'm like, shit, I'm now at the age, my dad was, so to speak, when I was still a very relatively young man. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, damn, 53 got here really fucking quick when you think about it. Well, I'll be 53 in a couple of months, but it got here pretty good. I still feel like that young Marine, that young devil dog, I guess you could say, walking around Camp Pendleton. But when you look in the mirror, it's like, man, who is this cat? You know what I'm saying? Sure. I mean, throw it in the comments right there. I'm just curious to see what some of you folks are, experience out there. If you've come to some of these moments, and I don't want to say like old man moments, so to speak, but it's like, man, who is this individual that's kind of looking back at me? You know what I'm saying? So, and the other thing is that, unlike, and by the way, I've met some of my counterparts who've gotten out of the service, whereas in 6 months to a year, because we're not hitting the pavement as hard as we used to back in the day, doing uh, doing half marathon runs, doing in your entire BDUs, as some of the branches call it, or in the Marine Corps we call it boots and utilities, basically running in your uniform. I mean, I used to do crazy shit like that from when I was stationed at Camp Pendleton and with the artillery unit, 11th Marines. Shout out to my cannon cockers. I would periodically I would run in utilities all the way back to Las Pulgas Gate. Now, if you're familiar with Camp Pendleton, that's it's an 11 and a half mile run there and back, and I would do this during lunchtime. And I'm not out there being a gazelle. I mean, it would take me 2 hours to do this. I mean, on almost on the in you know yeah, to the T. Basically, I would leave right at 11 o'clock and just start, chugging my way out there and coming back. And I would do this by myself. Not sure if that was the smartest thing to do. I mean, sometimes it'd just be blazing freaking hot. And that road is not pretty heavily populated. So it can be pretty lonely. Those of you who've done it, let me know. Let me know in the comments. But, it's so as I think back, being able to do things like that or running up Margarita Peak, and despite all the injuries that I've sustained in my lifetime, I mean, again, I know when I was doing them runs, I was already Chief Warrant Officer 3, but even before that, I mean, I've throughout my career, I've had multiple knee surgeries. I've had knee surgeries. The shoulder injury, I've had it for many years. It was after the service when I decided to get the shoulder surgery. But, I had back issues, among many other different things. Again, in that environment, it's necessary because we get paid to be warriors. We get paid to work through the pain. We get paid to basically, in the event that shit goes wrong, despite of whatever we got it going on internally, we got to make that body work, if you know what I mean. I mean, that is our requirement, and we have it. We pay a heavy price. I mean, I wish we got paid like football players, which, I'm not taking away from what they do, or baseball players where they have, severe injuries and all those things. On that aspect, God bless them for it, because they too, in their own way, shape, and form, they sacrifice their bodies for that trade, so to speak, and provided that entertainment to us. But I mean, shit, for what we do and that we sacrifice our body, mind, soul, and spirit for this nation, I mean, it would be nice to get compensated just a quarter of what these folks make, maybe even from the VA, wink, wink, right? So, and I know I did a show not too long, was it 2 weeks ago, or I spoke about and again, I'm not trying to shade at the individual because they're still on active duty. I am and I'm not. But, being in this day and age, I am pretty confident that at the very least, I can still pass a physical fitness test. And I'm willing to bet on myself that I could still get a first class, not a high first class, if anything, a low first class, but I'm willing to bet that I can get, I can do that, man. Maybe I should give myself that test one day and see if I, how I do, maybe, and hey, and I'll report back whether I'm good or not. I mean, shit. But don't mistake our age for weakness. Even that one service member or those couple that are, kind of fluffy or gain weight, whatever, they're still much better off than the average Joe out here in the public sector, because again, the things that we've done and been trained, I'm sure that we can still whip it on whenever necessary, right? So I guess as we get older, it's more about the wisdom and the experience that we get, and how do we apply it? Is that individual? I'm sure that when push comes to shove, that young warrior is still there, or that those basics are there, that we will be able to react and overcome whatever it is that's presented on us, right? Yeah. So, but I do like to say that, and not to point any fingers at some of the youth nowadays, but it's like, man, I think we're just carved a little different, and obviously the gap between growing up without all the crazy things that and the advancement that we've had to some of the simplicities. And I mean, shit, I think about my mom, who's one still alive, still somewhat very young, but just the whole say, man, she grew up in even more simpler times. Just to see, I wonder what her take is on just on today's uh, youth and how things and this whole uh, perspective as to how young people comparison to even me as her son or my counterparts to even some of hers, right? um, you know when I was and here's one thing is that I used to work with the sergeant major, and those of you who've been on the show and have served with me and been on the show, um, there was this sergeant major. So at one point in time, I was doing inspector instructor duty in the army. They called it AG, Active Guard Reserve, I believe. Basically, in the Marines, we're active duty personnel who get stationed at a reserve unit, and we work with our reserve counterparts. We're the folks that we stay permanently while the reservists are out in the civilian sector doing their thing. We are the permanent personnel, and we're there for 2 3 years, however long that tour of duty is. We're there to make sure that the lights stay on and kind of things get that the shop runs while they're out in the civilian sector. Anyways, so when I got to Fourth Light Armor Reconnaissance Battalion, who we ended up taking to Iraq, myself and some of the people that have been on the show before, we there was a sergeant major there. His man, I can't remember his last name, but his first name was Milton. And cool story about Milton is that the guy was part of the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead was a unit that in Vietnam they got ambushed, and there was only very few survivors in that. Milton was one of them, and so he was part of the Walking Dead, which is pretty huge. And he stuttered, so, and he would tell him, like, hey, Sergeant Major, because I asked him, hey, Sergeant Major, what, did you ever stutter before you came in? He goes, no, I never did. And he kind of briefly went over. I'm sure, I don't want to pry on his story, but anyways, but the one thing about Milton is that for a guy his age, because even back then when I got to Fourth LAR, it was back in '97, and I actually ended up staying there. No, I'm sorry, it was back in '99, early 2000. So when I got to that unit, Milton, the sergeant major, was there, and he was an older guy in his late 40s, I would say 50s, because he was in Vietnam, right? Anyways, so when he retired, he took over one of the gyms in Camp Pendleton. I would run into him and say, "Hey, Sergeant Major, you still look good. What do you do?" And he goes, "Well," he goes, "when you get to be my age, it's no longer about the weights. It's no longer about being big and super extremely buff like when you're younger." And because back then I was still I was in my mid to late 20s, and obviously get some hoorah, get strong, all that good stuff. He's like, it's more about maintenance. You find ways to still get the mission done, and but you do it in a different way, because when you're in your 20s, you're bigger, you're faster, you're stronger. You could pretty much eat whatever, and your body will burn that shit off like it's cool. But now that in your 50s, is obviously, yeah, you could be healthy, you could be mobile, independent, but the reality is that you're not that young person that you were back in the day. Hell, even in your 30s and 40s, I mean, it's completely different. So you say, hey, look, your new goal is to maintain that, find ways to maintain that, still get the mission done, still be physically fit, but obviously you want to protect your joints, you want to protect your heart, protect your brain, and maintain your muscles. So I guess you could say maintenance is now the critical mission of everything. As a matter of fact, I just came from a medical appointment today at the VA, because I was just, and which is very good. The doctor was very, very thorough. I think by far one of the best, most very patient and answer all my questions as it pertained to, I mean, shit. Did you know that the VA, if you didn't know, VA is now, if you want to lose weight, GLPT-1 medicines there, and the doctors say, hey, look, it's really good because studies have shown, and what we've been seeing is that not only it's good for weight loss, but preventative issues with your heart. Um, help you reduce stress on your joints by losing weight. It also gives you cognitive sense in regards to brain health, among many different things. So if you got sleep apnea, among other things, and you struggle with weight, you've put on some weight over the last couple of years, I would encourage you to go ahead and take a look at that. I'll be straight up honest. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I have put on some weight. I do exercise every day. I'm also back tracking my eating habits through the Noom app. I don't get any. I've always been a huge fan of Noom because it does make you more cognitive as to, or have a sense of like, hey, what am I eating? What am I putting in my body? Because we fall into old habits, and again, weight gains and things like that can lead to heart issues, diabetes, and just joint and everything else. So I just don't want to get into venture near those any of those realms, because I know we all got to go some way, someday, but I sure would like to stick around longer. You know what I'm saying? So because there are hidden dangers of letting yourself go. Uh, you know, there's and I'll be honest. I mean, again, yeah, I may be about 10 pounds, 15 pounds over. I'm being fully transparent here, maybe a little bit more. Uh, I do have friends who are in the military, and then also civilians that, man, some of these people, they look much older, and and again, much older than what they are, because one, they've gained weight. uh, they drink heavily. Some of them still smoke cigarettes, and all those things affect you. And excuse me, no matter which way you slice it, or we think that we want to, I just want to, I'm only here for a little bit. Nobody wants to die. No, in that sense, especially, for something like heart attack or any of those things, right? So it's super important that, we protect our joints, our body, and don't become sedentary, or start drinking heavily, among other things, if anything. And I mean, I'm not here to the drink monger or anything of the sort, because I mean, I've been sober since September 12, 2013. But and believe me, I drank my years. So, but I'm just saying that, hey, if you want to have a drink, that's on you. That's fine. Just do it in moderation. But you know, at what point did society convince us that getting older meant giving up? And just kind of like getting fat, getting overweight. It is true, and because I travel a lot, and I've seen in other countries. It's just there's a huge difference between what a person our age here and a person in another country looks like, as far as weight and among other things. And did you know that France, one of the countries that consumes wine and among other things, and there's per capita, they have the lowest heart issues, the lowest alcoholism, among other things. You know, so outside of the country, in those aspects, some people are doing it right, and so we just need to be. I think we could be better on that aspect. So there's a thing about getting older, and there's another thing about quitting. So I know we all got to go, but what? So how do you want to go? You know what I'm saying? So there is a choice, right? And so I prefer going down, kind of swinging, and whenever that time may come, even though I don't want it, but at least, man, this still look good for being 120 something years old, right? So because how do we get better longevity? I mean, again, things are some of the things that I learned today. Hey, studies have shown not there aren't the there are peer reviewed papers. However, there's not enough of them where they can say, hey, take things like creatine, which studies have shown that it has huge help now. Not only on, obviously for getting big, because that's what, when I used to work out, and creatine is great, but it's also great for brain health. It helps with dementia. Again, they're doing a lot of studies, and I'm sure that in the next couple of years, medical papers will be released, and the VA will say, "Hey, start taking some creatine and other things, and like omega oil pills, and other things to get better, right?" So because you wanna be able to, hey, if you have joint issues, or I highly recommend that if you're on bone or your knees or your hip, whatever, get a joint replacement. It's been great for me, man. It gave me a lot of the things that I was missing out on back. I can walk, I can do a lot of the things and partake in things that I wasn't able to before, but that I struggle quite a bit, uh, prior to having it done. And obviously recovery, weight loss medications, things. It's not like the days where, when I was younger in the was in '90s and 2000, people were taking things like fen and all kinds of other stuff where people were dying, and just kinds of shit. So yeah, everything has side effects, but I think it's come a long way, right? So if a tool helps become healthier, live longer, and remain, I guess, active, then maybe it's worth having that conversation and checking it out, right? So we just want to, again, as we get older, we want to focus on, that health span. How long do we want to be? Yeah. And again, maybe we need to curtail. If you got to have that honest conversation, because sometimes, um, we don't, because it's just much easier not taking a hard look at that man in the mirror. Is like, man, you've been hitting the rice a little too much. Which again, like I mentioned, I'm tracking what I'm eating now. Again, I'm I'm taking my vitamins. That's right. You gotta take your vitamins. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. That's right. You gotta take your vitamins. All those things that, and hey, shit, who knows, in the next couple of years, maybe things are going to be, eh, eh, I'll put it to you this way. When I was younger, looking at my dad at my age, because I'm now at the age, again, where I remember talking to my dad, and I was in my 20s, and he was, pushing 50, and my dad looked seasoned. And people at this age were like, man, they're super, and they looked old. As a matter of fact, if you look at the movie Cocoon, those of you who are, I know I'm dating my age, but if you look at the movie Cocoon, those actors in that movie, like Wolfer Brimley, he was barely in his 50s, if you can believe that. Some, there were a couple that were barely in their 60s, but I mean, shit, Brad Pitt just turned 62, and he just did that movie with about the combat dog, and the dude looks great. So I mean, Tom Cruise, people, and again, if you look at the movie Cocoon, those people were around my age at that time. Ain't that shit crazy? So I'm just saying that people are living longer now. People are more health conscious, looking better at their age. I mean, shit. My wife is smoking hot. I mean, and my wife is badass. So I'm just saying that people at that age, when I was younger, they didn't look like that. So, and you just want to stick around for everybody. That's what I don't know. I just want to give huge shout out to my wife for being smoking hot. God damn. So, you know, the goal isn't to become the man I was, I guess. The goal is to become the best version of the man that I am now. And coming into terms, I know, right? Hydration, hydration, hydration. Maybe, maybe. How about somebody? Nobody has ever has thrown the common drink water, change your socks, and take Motrin, right? uh, no, we're not getting old, brother. We're just getting better, right? So, and by the way, huge shout out to the folks putting some of the great comments here. I'm trying to keep it straight, right? But it's true, because so that's the difference, is accepting who we are now. Uh, the young Marine served his purpose, right? But the seasoned warrior has a different mission now, and that mission matters just as much as it did back then, right? So, uh, I may not be as lean, but I'm still a fucking Marine. You know what I'm saying? Hey, or I'm still a soldier, airman, shipmate, because I don't want to say sea. I don't want to say fuck. I don't want to say seaman. I mean, hey, right, Navy. Hey, can my Navy folks throw right here? I'm still that shipmate. Yeah, let's just go with shipmate. But in reality, all joking aside, the mission is making sure I'm healthy enough to enjoy the life. I fought so hard to build, right? I mean, that's at the end of the day, we just want to stick around for our loved ones and our grandkids, right? So by the way, one of our grandkids, she's 15, 16 now. I'm just kind of telling the rest of the crew, the Korea crew, uh, where are the rest of the kids at? We're ready for some grandkids as well. I'm just throwing that out there, right? So, but I think this is a pretty good place to index before I just go. There you go, Sailor. Ara! Thank you so much, Mr. Lamb. I appreciate that. Hey, my fellow sailors got to, hey, I love my other brothers and sisters in the other armed forces. Huge shout out to them. And look, just to kind of end the show this way. Look, if you've been struggling with rumination, kind of like digging yourself in that hole where you just don't feel like you can pull yourself out, don't reach out to one of us, reach out to somebody in the show, do a buddy check, reach out to somebody, because God forbid somebody takes their own life for things that may be shitty times, because shitty times won't last long, but tough people do. So, and we're the ones who stay behind asking the questions, man, what else could we have done to help you get through that speed bump? You know what I'm saying? So, but I think we had a pretty good show. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to have a conversation, talk trash about your previous leadership, whatever the case may be, or just bullshit a little bit around the campfire, eating an MRE, hit me up on the show. We'd love to have your show. We'd love to pump you up. We'd love to put your whatever your company is, or even your podcast, your show, just like some of the folks on here that have been on the show before. We'd love to have you on here. So with that being said, everybody, I just want to say, Ice Tomas, Index, Daisuke, I'll see you next week. All right, get some.